you ever had one of those nights that just sticks with you? Like years later you still think about it and feel that same tight, cold feeling in your chest? That's what this is for me. It's not a ghost story. Not exactly. But something about what happened that night doesn't make sense, like a bad dream that decided to follow me into real life. Anyway, my name's Eli, and this all went down in 2021 in a small, nothing town on the edge of Ohio. Back then I was 19 and into graffiti, painting walls, train cars, tunnels, old bridges, basically anything with space and texture. I wasn't great, but I loved it. The colors, the lines, the rush of doing something I probably shouldn't. Most of the graffiti scenes in my town were toxic as hell. Everyone thought they were better than everyone else. People would paint over your work, talk trash behind your back, or steal your tags. After a while, I stopped hanging out with the other taggers. I liked going solo, quieter spots, forgotten places where I could paint in peace. The only person who still came with me sometimes was Noah, my cousin. He wasn't really into painting, but he liked the adventure of it. The sneaking around, the exploring, the weird places we ended up. He said it made him feel like we were in some kind of urban horror movie. The funny thing is, that night it actually turned into one. It was a Friday in late October, a little before Halloween. Cold enough that you could see your breath, but not so cold that it was miserable. Noah and I were sitting in my car behind an old gas station on the edge of town, scrolling through satellite maps, trying to find a new place to paint. That's when I spotted it, an old set of train tracks that cut through a patch of woods about 2 miles out. The satellite view showed a few train cars just sitting there covered in rust. "That's perfect," I said, grinning. "No one's touched that place." Noah leaned in. "You think it's safe?" I laughed. "Safe enough." We stopped at a convenience store, grabbed a couple energy drinks, and headed out. The drive was maybe 15 minutes down back roads lined with trees that looked skeletal in the moonlight. By the time we parked near the tracks, it was just past 10. The air smelled like damp metal and pine. Somewhere far off, a dog barked, but otherwise it was quiet, like the whole world was holding its breath. We found the train easily. It stretched for what felt like forever down the tracks, a long snake of rust and shadows. What caught my eye immediately, though, was how clean it was. Not a single tag. Not one scribble. Not even a name. That's rare. Usually even the most hidden cars get hit by someone. "This is weird," Noah said, running his hand along the metal. "It's like nobody knows this is here." "Even better," I said, pulling out my backpack of cans. I handed him one. "You can try if you want." He shook his head. "I'll just watch." So I got to work. The sound of the paint rattling inside the can echoed strangely, too loud for how quiet it was. Each hiss of spray sounded sharp, like it cut through the stillness. I did my first tag fast, then another. The metal was cold under my fingers, slick with dew. I was halfway through my third tag when I noticed something odd. The sound of my can, it wasn't echoing right anymore. Usually in spots like that you get this hollow bounce back of sound, but suddenly it felt like the noise was getting swallowed, like the train itself was absorbing it. I told myself I was imagining things. When I finished, I stepped back to look. The letters glowed faintly under my flashlight. I was proud of it. Until Noah spoke. "Hey, did you hear that?" I froze. "Hear what?" He tilted his head. "That metal sound, like something dropped." At first I didn't hear anything. Then, faintly, from farther down the line, clang, like a heavy pipe hitting steel. We both went still. The woods were quiet again. Too quiet. "Probably an animal," I said. "A raccoon or something." Noah nodded, but his face said he didn't believe it. We started walking down the line, me carrying my paint, him with his flashlight, The beam bounced off the train cars, lighting up rust, dents, and broken wheels. Every now and then we'd hear something small move in the brush. Then we heard it again. Louder this time. Clang. Noah jumped. Okay, that's not an animal. I swallowed hard. It's probably wind. Metal shifting. But there was no wind. Not even a breeze. We stood there staring into the dark gap between two cars. The longer I looked, the more I thought I saw movement, a faint flicker of something inside one of the open doors. And then, something hit the ground near us. We both flinched. It rolled toward my foot. It was one of my empty spray cans. I had thrown them behind me earlier, way back by the first cars I painted. There was no way it could have rolled that far on its own. Noah whispered, "Someone's here." My heart was hammering so loud it felt like it echoed through the trees. I grabbed my phone and started recording, the flashlight shaking in my hand. The screen lit up my face, pale and wide-eyed. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice cracked. Silence. Then, from inside the train, "You shouldn't be here." The voice was deep, gravelly, close. We both froze. Noah looked at me like he wanted me to say it was a prank. But I couldn't. The voice came again, louder. "I said you shouldn't be here." That's when a can came flying out of the dark, hitting the ground between us with a sharp metallic clink, and then the voice screamed. It wasn't words this time, just this horrible, ragged scream that didn't sound human. We ran. Behind us, I swear I heard footsteps hitting the gravel. Fast, heavy ones getting closer. Noah yelled for me to move faster. The light from my phone bounced wildly, catching glimpses of the train, the trees, and then nothing but black. And then, bang. A gunshot. It was so close that I felt it in my chest. Noah screamed. We didn't stop. We didn't even look back. We ran until the tracks crossed a main road, and then we kept going. We didn't stop until we reached my car, gasping, shaking, our hands trembling so hard we could barely get the keys in the ignition. We drove home in silence. Neither of us spoke a word. For days after that, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see that flash of movement, hear that voice. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? "Yeah, officer. We were spray painting trains and someone tried to kill us." "Right. But curiosity's a weird thing. It doesn't let go." 3 weeks later, I went back. I told myself I just wanted to see it in the daylight. Maybe to prove to myself it wasn't as bad as I remembered. I brought my uncle's old .38 revolver just in case. The place looked different under the sun, less menacing, almost normal. The trees swayed gently, birds chirped. But when I reached the train, my stomach dropped. Every tag I had painted was gone. Not just gone, covered. Thick, messy splashes of red paint had been smeared across the metal, like someone had tried to erase what I'd done in anger. And the weird part? The paint was still wet. I moved slowly down the line until I saw something I hadn't noticed before. One of the train car doors was wide open. Inside, it was dim, dusty, and completely empty except for a single chair, just one, sitting dead center on the metal floor. Around it were ropes, chains, and what looked like dark stains on the ground. And the smell. God, the smell. It wasn't just must or rust. It was bleach. Overpowering. So strong it made my eyes water. The kind of smell that tries too hard to hide something worse. I stepped inside, 1 foot at a time, holding my phone out for light. The air was thick, heavy, and wrong. I could hear my own breathing echoing. That's when I heard it. Clang. This time it wasn't distant. It was right there, coming from the next car over. I froze. Then came another sound, a slow dragging noise, like metal scraping metal. That was enough. I didn't wait to see what it was. I ran. Out of the car, down the tracks, back toward my car, every instinct screaming to get out of there. When I got home, I sat in my driveway for almost an hour, just staring out the windshield. I never told Noah I went back. He wouldn't have believed what I saw anyway. But sometimes, late at night, I'll hear a faint clanging noise outside my window. Just a soft, hollow metal sound. I tell myself it's nothing, that it's just in my head. But every now and then I wake up and find one of my old spray cans sitting on my porch. And the weirdest part, they always smell like bleach. Alright, so this happened a few years back. Summer of 2017, I think. My name's Eli, and back then I was 20, just home for my first year of college. Normally I'd spend my summers doing anything but coming back to Winslow, my boring hometown tucked away in the mountains of Oregon. But that summer, money was tight, and I had to come home for a week before catching a flight to visit my cousin in Berlin. I hadn't planned on hanging out with anyone. I wasn't in the mood for awkward small talk with old high school friends, and honestly, I just wanted the week to pass. So I kept to myself, woke up early, went on long hikes, rewatched old movies, and sometimes just drove around, listening to weird podcasts or old music that reminded me of simpler times. By day 6, I was bored out of my skull. It was a hot, dry afternoon, the kind where the sunlight feels like it's pressing down on you. I wanted to do something that felt real, a little risky, something to shake off the boredom. And that's when I remembered the tracks. Back in high school, my friends and I used to do this dumb, reckless thing, train hopping. There's this stretch of railway just outside of town, surrounded by dense trees, with a tunnel that cuts right through the hillside and opens onto a long steel bridge over Mirror Creek. We used to hop on the slow-moving freight trains, ride them through the tunnel, and sometimes even cross the bridge if we were feeling brave. It was illegal, obviously, and stupid, but we thought we were invincible. I hadn't done anything like that in years. But that afternoon, I figured, why not one last time? Just a quick ride through the tunnel, hop off, walk back. No harm in it. So I grabbed a water bottle, jumped in my car, and drove out to the old service road. The place looked the same. Overgrown brush, cracked pavement, the occasional rusted sign warning people to stay off the tracks. I parked behind some trees and started walking. The tracks ran quiet through the woods, a silver ribbon cutting through green. About a half-mile in, I reached the tunnel. It looked darker than I remembered, like a throat leading into the mountain. Beyond it, just a sliver of sunlight hinted at the clearing on the other side. I waited. Maybe 20 minutes went by. I was about ready to call it off when I felt it, that soft humming beneath my feet. The faint rattle in the rails. A train was coming. I ducked into the brush just off the path and crouched low. My heart was thudding, but not from fear, more like excitement. That old adrenaline buzz. The train rolled past with a slow clatter, the kind of rhythm that creeps into your bones. I counted the cars, 1, 2, 3, 10, 20. When I saw one with a low ladder, I stepped out, jogged up to it, and grabbed hold like I'd done a dozen times before. Easy. The train was moving slow enough. I climbed up, settled into the little metal ledge, and grinned to myself like an idiot. Then we hit the tunnel, and that's when everything changed. The second the sunlight vanished, the air shifted. It got cold, like unnaturally cold, the kind that makes your skin prickle. The darkness was thicker than it should have been. I mean, tunnels are dark, sure, but this felt alive, like it was swallowing the light. That's when I saw it. A flash. Just for a second, something lit up deeper in the tunnel. Not from the train. Not sparks. It was this pale bluish light, like the kind you see from old TVs left on in dark rooms. I leaned out a bit to see, but I shouldn't have. Because that's when something grabbed me, I swear on everything. I felt fingers wrap around my ankle, not just brushing me, grabbing. Cold, firm fingers like they'd been waiting. I let out this yell, kicked hard, and barely held onto the ladder. Whatever it was, it let go. My foot slammed against the side of the train as I scrambled higher, heart slamming in my chest. I hadn't even caught my breath when it happened again. Another hand, grabbing higher this time, like it was climbing after me. I screamed louder, kicked again, and pulled myself fully up onto the top of the train car. I sat there gasping, staring into the pitch black ahead. No one else was supposed to be in that tunnel. The train emerged into daylight a few moments later, and I didn't even wait. I jumped off, rolled down the hill next to the clearing, and stumbled to my feet, shaking. I looked back, watching the train chug across the bridge. The breeze carried the scent of rust and wildflowers. But I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about those hands. What were they? More importantly, who? I paced around the clearing, heart racing. I thought about calling someone, but who was I going to tell?
Hey, I illegally hopped a train and someone or something tried to drag me off it in a pitch-black tunnel?
Yeah, not gonna fly. Then I realized something even worse. The only way back to my car was through the tunnel. There was no other trail, no side roads, and there was no way I was walking across that narrow bridge. If a train came, I'd be dead. So there I was, standing in the woods, trying to decide between facing the tunnel or risking death on the bridge. I looked down at my phone, barely 1 bar of service. I thought about calling my dad, but what would I say? He didn't even know about the train stuff. No way I was explaining that. I picked up a rock, like that would help, and took a deep breath, and I started walking back. The tunnel loomed ahead like a mouth waiting to swallow me. The inside was still cold, still pitch dark. I could barely see anything beyond the first few feet. I turned on my phone flashlight and kept moving. Halfway through, just when I was near the spot where I'd been grabbed, I heard it. Click. It echoed through the tunnel. Click. Click. Like someone clicking their tongue. Slow. Deliberate. I froze. It was coming from somewhere ahead of me. Maybe 20, 30 feet. But the tunnel made it impossible to tell. I gripped the rock tighter. My palms were sweaty and my breath was loud. Way too loud. Then I got this idea. Stupid maybe, but better than nothing. I shouted, "Back off. I have a gun." My voice bounced around the tunnel like a bullet. The clicking stopped. Total silence. I waited. Nothing moved. Then I opened YouTube and found a video of gunshots. Turned the volume all the way up. Hit play. The first shot echoed like thunder. The second one made me flinch. I didn't wait. I ran. I ran like my life depended on it, because at that moment I was pretty sure it did. The tunnel stretched out forever, but I saw light up ahead. I ran harder. My legs burned. My lungs screamed, and then I was out, back in the trees. In the sun. I collapsed to my knees, sucking in air, shaking all over. Then I made the mistake of looking back. The tunnel looked calm, silent. But then, another flash, that same bluish glow deep inside, and I swear to God, I saw 2 shapes standing there, not moving. Just watching, I turned and bolted. Didn't stop running until I was in my car, speeding down the old road, heart still pounding. I haven't gone near those tracks since. I never told anyone the full story. Not until now. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear that clicking sound in my head. And sometimes, I dream about the hands. So if you ever find yourself out by Winslow, and you stumble on a set of train tracks that run through the woods into a long, dark tunnel, just keep walking. Whatever's in there doesn't like to be seen, and it does not like to be disturbed. Have you ever heard a story that just sticks with you? One of those weird, creepy ones that comes back to you when you're alone or walking home at night or trying to fall asleep? I've got one of those. And the worst part? It actually happened to me. My name's Mark, and back in 2013, I worked the night shift for the Ridgeway City Transit Department. Basically the folks who keep the subway stations clean, the lights working, the tracks clear. It wasn't the most glamorous job, but it paid decently and I liked working alone. Or at least I used to. This happened during my second year on the job. By then I thought I'd seen it all. Rats the size of cats, homeless guys screaming at walls, even a raccoon that somehow made it onto a moving train. Nothing fazed me anymore. But what happened that night at Holloway Station still haunts me. It was a Thursday around 1:30 in the morning. I was on a solo shift doing maintenance work at Holloway, an older underground station near the edge of the city. It didn't get much foot traffic, especially at night. Most people avoided it, and to be honest, I never really liked being assigned there. It just had a weird feel to it, like the walls were hiding something. Anyway, that night it was quiet. Too quiet. No wind, no footfalls, no sound but the hum of the fluorescent lights above me. I hadn't seen another person in hours. Even the usual distant screech of trains wasn't there. It felt like the whole world had paused. I was mopping near the far end of the platform when I heard this loud clang from somewhere down in the tunnel. Not the kind of noise you ignore. It echoed, sharp and heavy like metal slamming against metal. It made me freeze. The kind of sound that makes your stomach drop even if you can't explain why. I dropped my mop without realizing it. My hands were shaking, but I laughed it off. Told myself it was probably a loose bolt or a rat knocking something over. These tunnels are ancient. Things fall apart all the time. I waited, listening. Nothing, just silence again. So I picked up my mop, took a deep breath, and went back to cleaning. 10 minutes later, bang, same sound. Louder this time, closer. My heart jumped into my throat. I set my tools down and slowly walked toward the tunnel entrance. I didn't want to go in. Every part of me was screaming not to. But curiosity has a way of getting you in trouble. I stood just before the tracks, peering into the pitch black of the tunnel. It looked like a mouth yawning open to swallow anything dumb enough to step inside. I thought about calling out, "Hey, anyone there?" But I couldn't get the words out. It was like my body knew better. I shook it off, told myself to stop being paranoid, and turned back to finish up. That's when I heard it. A voice, a kid's voice. Faint but clear. "Help me." I spun around so fast I nearly slipped. It had come from the tunnel. No doubt. "Hello?" I called out. "Who's there?" No answer. Then again, "Please, help me." The voice was young, maybe 6 or 7 years old. A boy. He sounded scared. Really scared. I could feel the panic in his voice, like it was pulling me in. Now look, I'm not a hero. But I couldn't just ignore that. A kid alone in the subway tunnel? That's a death sentence. I climbed down onto the tracks, flashlight in hand, and carefully stepped toward the tunnel. The concrete felt cold and the air got thick the deeper I went. Like the tunnel was swallowing all the warmth, I shouted again, "Are you hurt?" "Where are you?" Silence. I kept walking slowly. My flashlight flickered. Of course it did. Then I heard the kid again. "I'm in front of you. Just keep walking." I stopped dead in my tracks. That wasn't a normal thing for a scared kid to say. His voice, it was different this time. Calmer. Like he wasn't scared anymore. Like he was waiting for me. I raised my flashlight and scanned the tracks ahead. The beam shook in my hand, but I saw something. A shape. Small. Standing maybe 20 feet ahead. It looked like a boy. Short, thin, arms hanging limply by his sides. But I couldn't see his face. He was too still. Too quiet. Then I saw it. Behind him. Another shape. Taller. Much taller. It looked like a man standing completely motionless. No sound, no breathing. Just there, I stopped breathing. My whole body went cold. There was no maintenance worker. No cop, no dad looking for his kid. Something was off. Way off. "Who's that with you?" I asked, my voice shaking. The boy didn't answer. Neither did the tall figure. "I asked you a question," I said louder this time, still nothing. Then finally the boy said, "Keep walking." But his voice wasn't scared anymore. It was flat, empty. Like he was reading lines from a script. I took one step back. Then another. My flashlight flickered again. The tall figure moved, just a small twitch. But it moved, that's all I needed. I turned around and ran. I didn't look back. Didn't breathe. I just sprinted along the tracks until I got back to the platform. I scrambled up, grabbed my phone, and ran up the stairs until I had a signal. Then I called the cops. They showed up fast. About 6 officers. Guns out, flashlights ready. I told them what I saw. I must have sounded crazy, but they didn't treat me like I was. Not exactly. They went down into the tunnel and searched for nearly an hour. I stayed up top pacing, trying to calm down. Eventually, one of the officers came back up. He looked pale. "There's nothing down there," he said. "No people, no bodies, but we did find something." He held up a small shoe, a kid's sneaker. Old, worn out, covered in grime. Just one, that was it. No kid, no man, no explanation. They checked every missing child report in the area. Nothing matched. No kid reported lost, not that night, not that week. It was like they vanished, but I know what I saw. I know I wasn't alone down there. And I still hear that voice sometimes. In dreams or when I'm near a dark stairwell. Just keep walking. Whatever that thing was, and that shadow, and it wasn't human. And that kid, if he was real, I hope he's okay. But if he wasn't, if he was part of it, then someone, or something, is using children to lure people into the tunnels, into the dark. So if you're ever on a train late at night and you stop at a station that looks too quiet, don't get off. And if you hear a child's voice calling for help from the tunnel, don't go down there, don't walk toward it, and whatever you do, don't keep walking.